Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday six-pack.
All right. And for our week 2 six-pack, we went 3-3. Those Wilson brothers let us down, as did the Bears. Never again. That was just a pick six on a screen pass after they just threw a screen pass. Just ridiculous. One of the worst, if not the worst, coach team in the league. And
they don't even know if they have coaches. We'll talk about that later. Though,
yeah,
when we talk about the Bears.
It's ugly, but it's 9-6 me on the six-pack. Again, we do two points for our first two, a point for our third, another point for our total, and another point if you sweep everything. For the first pick of the week 3 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons plus 3.5 at the Detroit Lions. And this is a mix of injuries for the Lions, and I like the spot for the Falcons. So injuries for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is banged up. Their left tackle, Taylor Decker, is probably going to go on IR. Vitae, the guard, he's injured as well. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a big addition to that secondary, not only in terms of skill level, but just overall kind of attitude and swag. Because remember, this was one of the worst defenses in the league. Terrible secondary. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson came in, and I think he, helped them start getting back to where they need to be, or getting to where they need to be. So he's out now. So just a lot of injuries for Detroit and to a lot of good players. I do think Amon-Ra plays, but he may not be 100%. And this Falcon team, their defense is better, which, something we expected. They could get a little more pressure now than they've been in the past. Their secondary is a little better than it's been in the past. And I think the Falcons can stay closer. And I think the Falcons can get the win. It's kind of like the Seahawks last week. Everyone's like, oh, my God, they have no tackles. It's like, all right, their tackles are like average at best. But the Lions are still kind of just like teetering on, like, are they really good, or are they just kind of like another one of these teams that you have to lump in with the Falcons and the Packers and the Saints and all these other NFC teams? From what I'm seeing, especially with these injuries, the Lions are kind of coming back to the pack a little bit. If the Seahawks can beat them with no tackles, the Falcons with Bijan and all these weapons and a good offensive line, I think can do the same. And we're getting a hook here at 3.5. So love it. Week 3 underdogs plus 7 or less, facing a favorite with a negative against the spread margin, which Detroit is about minus 2.8. 60-31-2 against the spread, 66% since 2005. Give me the Falcons.
By the way, you shorted me a point. It's not 9-7. I got my total too last week.
But you hit your Bills. Weren't the Bills your third?
First.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. It was written down as the third.
Falcons. I don't disagree taking the hook. I will say that I was semi-interested in maybe getting Detroit if the market kept coming down to 3, and I wanted to monitor all the injury situations, especially seeing how healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown is, because on the surface it's like, okay, I agreed with you that the Lions were a bit overvalued last week, overreaction from the Chiefs game, and they were at one point laying like 6 to Seattle, and now if this gets down to 3 against Atlanta. I know that there's some injuries, but it's not like a quarterback or that's a pretty big, drastic move for a Falcons team that has they're 2-0, but they're not the most impressive wins that you'll ever see, right? You're beating a rookie quarterback, then you beat a Packers team that was playing without 2 of its best weapons, 2 of its best offensive linemen. So, I do still have questions about the Falcons, and Goff, if he does at least have his wide receivers here and, Gibbs coming out of the backfield, he should have time. And
Montgomery, though, that's another injury.
Yeah,
I mean,
Montgomery
I'm just
too.
saying, like, these are all like the players that have been handling the ball for Detroit. They're these are a lot of good players, kind of, even if some of them play, like, they're not going to be practicing in full. Like, I just think Detroit's kind of out of sorts right now.
Yeah, no, you could be right. There's a tough game for me to gauge, but if Gibbs out there is, and you're going to go more pass heavy, you could have time to throw here. And if you're going to have some offensive line injuries, this isn't the worst team to go up against. And the Lions' run D has actually been okay. And if you dig into some of the metrics, they played, some decent offenses. The pass D, still a problem. And now you're dealing with injuries in the secondary. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, on paper, probably profiled as the most impactful player in that secondary. It's a big loss. But can Ritter really take advantage of the secondary? That's my primary concern. I would feel much more comfortable with maybe laying 3 with this coming down with Goff. If he has healthy weapons on the outside, he'll have enough time. But the injuries throw a wrench into it. You want to take this ball control Falcons offense. It's going to be in a lot of close games, and you're taking the hook. I don't mind it.
I mean, higher on the Falcons again. But you look at the Falcons so far, they're 12th in EPA per play on offense. Detroit is 15th. And the Falcons are 13th in EPA per play on defense, and the Lions are 25th. So, and the Falcons are allowing 4.2 yards per play on defense. I know it's Green Bay, and it's who do they play on week 1? I don't even remember anymore. Carolina. Panthers. But like the Falcons are doing what they have to do. Like, I don't think you'd want to see anything more. Like, I think they're a live dog in this spot.
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, I do think. I mean, if you look at who the Lions played the Chiefs and then the Seahawks on a fast track. The Falcons are playing a rookie quarterback on the road in his first start, and then the Packers without, 2 best offensive linemen, 2 best weapons. So I think that their defensive numbers are a little inflated early, but I don't mind you taking the hook here with the injury uncertainty. For my best bet number, I forgot how to talk for a second. For my first pick of the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts. Your Indianapolis Colts against my Baltimore Ravens. Look, in Week 3, in general, this is true for the entire season in the NFL when I'm betting it, is looking to sell high, buy low, try and time the market right. Okay, I think this team's at its peak, or okay, now I think this team is undervalued. And I think that's the case with the Ravens this week. They're 2-0 straight up. They're 2-0 against the spread. But if you dig into it, they play a Week 1 home game against a rookie quarterback and an offensive line that was pieced together that week. They had no chance. Last week, they play Cincinnati, and Burrow clearly is hurt, and he is throwing balls into the ground. You're not going to beat an NFL team like the Ravens if your quarterback can't complete a pass. So they really have benefited from back-to-back weeks of other circumstances, right? Rookie quarterback playing in front of a hostile crowd with a piecemeal offensive line. And last week, Burrow was hurt. I mean, he might be out, who knows for how long, but you could see it in Week 1. You could see it last week. And everyone has seemingly forgot about the Ravens' injuries, which there are now more of those injuries, and they're clustered. I mean, in the secondary, you now lost your slot. You're already without Marcus Williams. You're already without Marlon Humphrey. Didn't really matter when you're playing a rookie quarterback in the offensive line and hurt Joe Burrow, but it's eventually going to catch up to the Ravens. Oweh, Bowser, now both going to be on IR as well. On the offensive side of the ball, you already lost Dobbins. You're going to be without Stanley. You're going to be without Linderbaum, your 2 best offensive linemen. You're probably going to be without Beckham. I mean, it's never ending. We're talking about 8, 9 of your most important players on the team. I have liked what I've seen from Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. He's getting rid of the ball really quick, a lot quicker than before. His underlying passing metrics are encouraging. But these injuries are going to catch up to the Ravens. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to play. I haven't seen an update as of now. I think Gardner Minshew's actually an upgrade as of this point because he could throw it downfield. Richardson, I don't think, has attempted a ball past 20 yards. You got to attack this Ravens team with all their injuries in the secondary downfield. And I just think we're getting the Ravens a little overvalued in a weird spot. They, go on the road, get revenge against Cincy. They got Cleveland next week. Come home for the Colts. Could be some weather here, a lot of wind. It could be an ugly game where 8 points feels like a lot in your back pocket. And the Colts over the first 2 weeks are one of the teams that I've actually upgraded the most. I was super low on them. Anthony Richardson, better than I expected this early. And really, in the trenches, they've been a lot better. The offensive line, which has fallen off a cliff the past years, looks great. Ryan Kelly, the number 1 rated center in the league. Everything looks just more connected. And their defensive line has actually been really good. Now, granted, they've gone up against some undermanned and injured units, but that's what's going to happen again here. So I think this number is too high. And you brought this up last week. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, are the new Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you look at his numbers as a favorite, as an underdog or favorite of less than 3 points, I think he's 17-4 against the spread. But as a favorite over 3 points, the Ravens haven't been great. Harbaugh hasn't been great in the spot as a bigger favorite at home. I think this is a sleepy spot. Injuries catch up to him here. In the past, this is a completely random note, but just as a Ravens fan, I know this. Whenever we play the Colts, we get behind, and then Lamar has made a comeback in the fourth quarter. I think that's how it's going to play out here. So I'll happily take the 8 here. Minshew or Richardson, whoever it is. And hopefully if Minshew's near the goal line and I need a backdoor cover, he gets in this time.
Yeah, I agree. I've upgraded the Colts as well. They look a lot closer to mediocre than the dumpster fire I thought they were going to be. And I agree. I think, Minshew probably is less likely to turn the ball over. Also less likely to punch it in from the 1 yard line on whatever it was, but I digress. I can't hate on it. I think this is kind of a perfect, play, 2-0 Ravens team. You getting, over a touchdown with a Colts team that I think is a little better than people expect. So yeah, I like that one too. All right. For my second pick, the third overall of the week 3 Sunday 6-pack, going with the New Orleans Saints +2 at the Green Bay Packers. And I think the Packers, they've looked pretty good, but I think they've been running a little bit lucky here. And I think the Saints team can get the win. So first of all, Green Bay, 5th on third down conversion rate, 1st in the red zone. They only outgained the Bears by 18. They were outgained by 11 by the Atlanta Falcons. And meanwhile, and also the Packers haven't turned the ball over yet. So Jordan Love, big interception machine all throughout his career. He's been taking care of the ball very well, but I don't know how much longer the Packers are going to go without turning the ball over. Meanwhile, I think the Saints haven't quite played as well as they should be playing. They had that 4-point win. No, it was a 1-point win over the Titans, and then a 3-point win over the Carolina Panthers. When the Panthers get the late touchdown, the Titans kick that field goal late to cover, and then the Saints they sit on the ball at the end. So it could have been a little bit different, but the Saints outgained the Titans by 66. They outgained the Panthers by 102. So they're plus 168 in terms of total yardage through 2 games, which I think is good. Carr talked about kind of a rough start for him, but his receivers are getting open. Michael Thomas looks great, which is always important when you play Green Bay because they do have a corner that can shut down probably Olave. We'll see how they kind of deploy Jair, but I think the Saints have enough here in this spot to get it done against this Green Bay team that I just they've kind of been going as well as it could be, and yet they still that what is it, 24-12 entering the fourth against Atlanta, and they can't get it done. I just think this Green Bay team, they're doing a good job of kind of managing Jordan Love, but even if Aaron Jones comes back this week, I don't think he's gonna make a massive difference here. And Christian Watson, we'll see about him, but overall, I still think the Saints have more weapons. I think they have a defense that's just as good, if not better, especially with Joe Barry coordinating for the Packers. And I just think the Packers have been getting a little lucky here on third down in the red zone and with turnovers. So give me the Saints +2, week 3 underdogs against a 1-1 straight up favorite that coming off a loss in week 2. 50-31 and 162% against the spread. Give me Saints.
I disagree with this one. I would need 3 to consider it, but I'm higher than the Packers than almost anybody. They have been fortunate in quite a few stats, but they've also been dealing with a lot of injuries, which we still don't have any clarity on. Watson was limited today as of 5 minutes ago. Jones did not practice. Bakhtiari did not practice. Jenkins did not practice.
Yeah.
So that's bad. That could be where you can make your case. Now, the Packers defense, I still like the matchup against Carr. It doesn't look comfortable yet in this offense.
But the receivers are getting open.
They are. But can you, the way you want to beat the Packers, and why I liked your Falcons play last week is like, if you are able to just maul and control the ball, you can run on them. So, one, do you think this is a big, heavier use Taysom Hill game? And then 2, what running backs are left for the Saints? That would be my
Tony Jones, I'm guessing.
Is it just Tony Jones?
No, I mean, Kendre Miller might be healthy this week. I think he's been getting closer and closer. So, I mean, he's a pretty talented back. We'll see about him. I think Jamal Williams is banged up.
Jamal Williams. You have Eno Benjamin on IR. Kamara is suspended. So yeah, it's like there's a chance it's just Tony Jones. So then, do you go like heavier? Use Taysom Hill some more, and
they've been saying they want to get him more involved, so that wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, the Saints. I don't really worry about the Saints running the ball. I mean, they're gonna find somebody to run the ball. I mean, they could just hand it off to Rashid Shaheed and let him jet sweep it or something. Like the Saints always found a way to run the ball. I just need Carr to play a little better than he's played. But the receivers are if Carr can kind of get right, like the receivers are open, all 3 of them. So. And like for me, what it really comes down to with the Packers, you kind of hit on it, the injuries. Remember, this is a very young team. Like Jordan Love doesn't have much experience. All of the skill positions are very young, aside from Aaron Jones and Dylan. And I just think all these missed practices, and every time one guy gets healthy, another guy goes down. Offensive lines, like I just think it's going to take some time for the Packers, and I think they're going to regress in those, like they're playing way above their head on third down and red zone and turnover, especially considering the inexperience and their injuries. So yeah, I just think that's going to kind of
these injuries, if they lingered in this week, I don't mind this play at all because Josh Myers has some weaknesses at center. So like if you don't have Bakhtiari and Jenkins, then like that problem gets magnified, and then Watson not having him, it's just another weapon that you don't have. And I actually do think Aaron Jones matters. They always say running back don't matter because Dylan, I feel like they're stubborn on Dylan and where they drafted him. There's just no explosiveness there. And the difference between what he could do, not only running the ball, but especially in the passing attack, I think that's a pretty significant difference. Like it could be a couple of first downs a game that could keep a few drives going. And Aaron Jones also could hit a home run at any point in time. And Dylan really doesn't have that capability. So, yeah, with these injuries, I don't mind it. A little teaser. I like a teaser of the Saints. So I'm agreeing with you in some sense, but we'll talk about that later.
You made just one thing before we move on. You mentioned the first downs. Here's a crazy stat. The Packers have played the Bears and the Falcons, right? The Packers have 32 first downs on offense. Their opponents have 49. And they played the Bears and Falcons like that. I just see some regression coming for this team. I mean, that you're not supposed to be getting out like minus 17 in first downs when you played the Bears and Falcons. Granted, on the road, so that's the one thing working in the Packers' favor. But All right, where are you going?
But it's not like there's gonna be it's a crazy weather home advantage here or anything for an indoor team.
It's not Aaron Rodgers.
All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns -3. Yes, I'm doing it. I am fading the underdog god, Mike Vrabel, after backing him the first 2 weeks as an underdog. He's now over 500 straight up as an underdog. But I do kind of separate, underdog of 3.5 or more versus 3 and below. And I just need the Browns to win this by at least a field goal, which I'm comfortable doing. This time is sitting at 4.5. And earlier in the week, and has come down. I would not have played the Browns -4.5 at 3, which is the most important number in NFL, extremely key number. I'm comfortable playing the Browns here. So for a couple of reasons. Yes, they lose Nick Chubb. He's one of the best backs in the NFL. But the Browns, I think, can still have a productive rushing attack with whoever they're going to have back there. We saw that last week with their offensive line. And in this particular matchup, Deshaun Watson has been great throwing the deep ball, and he's been a little inconsistent. But you're going to want to attack this Tennessee team through the air a little bit more, especially with some of their potential injuries on the back end, which I think, if Hooker and Fulton aren't 100% again this week and don't play, especially if they don't play, I think there's going to be some opportunities for the Browns to move the ball. But most importantly, I just don't think the market is really appreciating how dominant this Browns defense is. I love this Browns defense coming into the season. I thought it was going to be the most improved unit in the entire NFL. First of all, you hired a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. You just needed to hire any new defense coordinator to bring organization to this defense. Did that. They needed to be more aggressive. They're doing that. Blitzing, moving guys around. They needed to add bulk to improve their run defense. Did that. Lead the NFL in rush success rate. Added Juan Thornhill on the back end. They already have 3 good corners. You could argue this is a top 3 defense in the NFL. Everyone's talking about the Dallas defense. The Cleveland defense statistically has been better. And they didn't play Zach Wilson, although Kenny Pickett's pretty similar. So, I mean, look, 25% success rate. 25 and 27 in their first 2 games against division opponents. Last year, fewer than 6 games total across the NFL where a defense had a success rate that low. They should be 2-0, if not for 2 defensive touchdowns against Pittsburgh. A team hasn't sniffed the red zone against them yet. And now you're going to get that pass rush going up against the Tennessee offensive line, which I still have a ton of questions about. Skronsky's probably out again. And a quarterback who cannot move. I just think this is going to be a long day for Tannehill. I think this is also a rally game, like one of those intangible emotions where you've already seen Newsom come out and say, we're all dedicating this to Chubb. So I think the Browns really come out with their hair on fire. It's their defense that's going to be the difference against Tannehill. And, Derrick Henry hasn't gotten going yet, but the Browns' run D's been great. This defense is so undervalued in the market to me. At a field goal, it's a buy. I'm willing to go against the dog god Raybon. Nothing but respect, Mike. I wouldn't have faded you at 3.5, 4, 4.5, but at 3, I got to do it here. I think the Titans are going to struggle to get to 10 to 13 points.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not there with you on this one. And I agree with you on the Browns defense. My issue is the Titans are a pretty elite run defense. And so, yeah, now that means you have to rely on Deshaun Watson. But I just don't trust Deshaun Watson yet. And I feel like Deshaun Watson can be the equalizer for whatever, Tennessee doesn't have in terms of skill or whatever else. We already know they're going to have the intangible too with Raybon. So, call that a wash. But if Cleveland can't run the ball, Deshaun Watson's been under 6 yards an attempt in 5 out of his 8 starts with the Cleveland Browns. He's turned the ball over. I feel like this is just kind of a toss-up game here, between these 2 teams. Because I mean, whatever you think about Tannehill, and yes, Deshaun Watson can move more, but I mean, the end result has been almost worse for Deshaun Watson. 5.6 yards an attempt this year, 6.2 in his career with the Browns, 5.7 adjusted. I just don't trust this guy right now. And now he's playing his first full game without Chubb in that backfield. So it's kind of like the Pittsburgh game all over again. I know turnovers are kind of fluky, but Watson really hasn't shown me enough. So I wouldn't dare go against Raybon in this spot, but I'll root for you.
Browns front. Browns front decides this game, just like the Steelers front decided last week's game. That's my prediction. But yeah, now it's down at 3. I'm more than comfortable playing it after Tennessee gets an overtime win and the Browns lose a game that they should have won. They should be 2-0. Their defense, if it was defense was getting more pub, this line would be over a field goal. I'm more than comfortable here. And I think the Browns come out with an inspired effort. And yeah, we got to hope Watson doesn't turn it over. there's also pretty high chance Tannehill does that as well. So
he rebounded.
Here we go, Brownies.
Are the Chargers, man? We got to talk about the Chargers at some point. But let's go to my third pick, the fifth overall of the week, number 3, Sunday 6-pack. Going with the Houston Texans, plus 9.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Houston, who's playing O-line?
So Tunsil actually practiced today. Tunsil did practice on Wednesday.
That's good.
That's big.
Trying to keep up with their O-line is
listen, man,
it's a full-time job.
It is. But listen, we're talking about over a possession in a divisional game with a, I think it works in the Texans' favor more because, they have, the new coaching staff and new players. And, I think D'Amico is going to kind of find his footing. Hopefully they get at least one of the safeties back. I think that really hurt him last week. But, Tunsil practicing is big. But Houston in the red zone this year on offense. And because, CJ Stroud has looked pretty good, all things considered, especially when you look around the league, look at like Bryce Young, for example. And Richardson, can't stay on the field, but Stroud's a good. Now the issue for Houston, 1 of 6 in the red zone, 16.7%. That is dead last in the league. I think Houston's going to be able to move the ball on this Jacksonville team, and we don't expect the team to go 17% for the red zone all year. And by the same token, Houston's opponents, 78% in the red zone. That's 4th worst. So I think you're going to have, these numbers tend to be a little more volatile. I think you're going to see a little bit of regression here, especially for the Houston offense, which I do think looks good. I think Tank Dell is going to surprise some people. He's one of my favorite rookie receivers. I think Stroud.
I love Tank Dell, by the way. And by the way, the Houston Cougars are a disaster. They really miss him just as a college shutout. But
I can't even imagine. Yeah, like the minute I started watching him, I was like, this guy is probably already the best receiver on the Texans. Now, Nico Collins has been playing really well as well. So I don't think offense is going to be the issue here. Don't love this Jags defense. And on the other side, Jacksonville offensive line still a little bit banged up, still without, their left tackle who's suspended. And we've seen this kind of inconsistency from Trevor Lawrence. So, can the Texans keep it within one possession? I think they can. They're gonna get a cover and start hitting in the red zone at some point. Now, when you look at Houston, they actually outgained both of their opponents this year. They outgained Baltimore, they outgained Indianapolis, but it's just the red zone's been a real issue. So this Jacksonville team, I still don't think Jacksonville's taking that next step. They needed like this, the Colts run defense to just part like Moses, and then they had 1st and goal to 2 and they didn't get it in, so the Jags covered that one, and it was a 10-point win, and then they scored 9 points against the Chiefs at home. So I'm still got questions about the Jags. I think this Houston team is a bit underrated. I think they've been a bit unlucky. And CJ Stroud, considering the first 2 games he's had, I think, he's only going to get better. So I want to kind of buy low on Houston here. This is a big number for a divisional game. 0-2 straight up underdogs against a favorite with at least 1 win in week 3, 41-25-1, 62% against the spread, 34-14 against the spread, 71% since 2010. And teams that are 0-2 against the spread and that are underdogs in week 3, 57-35 against the spread, 62%. So the trends back Houston. I like the quarterback. I think the offense, it does enough here to keep it within 1 possession against the Jaguars.
Yeah, Jags had no business covered against the Colts. And then last week, bad loss at home. They only put 9 points up on the Chiefs to lose by 8 to the Chiefs in a game where the Chiefs had 12 penalties for 100 yards and 3 turnovers and only scored twice in 4 red zone trips. That Jags offensive performance was disgusting. Chiefs 6.2 yards per play, 400 total yards of offense. You might not know that from the 17 points, but there was a bunch of penalties and turnovers and red zone lack of execution. Jags only 4.2 yards per play against the Chiefs. Bad. So, yeah, I don't have a really strong feel on it, but if I was going to bet it, it would be Houston or nothing. I think that they're definitely there's going to be some value in Houston. Maybe it starts this week moving forward, especially as their offensive line just gets healthier. That offense, the hardest thing to implement from a scheme perspective is just the offensive line continuity, the reads, and it usually takes some time. You got a lot of moving parts. So as they're continue to figure it out, I think that execution in the red zone, scoring efficiency, all that is going to continue to improve.
Yeah, this is the spot you want to fade Trevor Lawrence. He is 2-6 against the spread as a favorite, 0-4 against the spread as a favorite by 4 or more points. So this is the fade Lawrence spot as well. But where are you going for your third?
Yeah, for my third and final pick of the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders minus 2.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't really value any travel trends, but this is one that still I think holds a little bit of weight. East Coast team on a short week going across the country to play in prime time on the West Coast. I think teams in that spot are the best 25 years, 8-16 against the spread. Just seems to throw off your body clock, less preparation. But this is primarily a major fade of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have not seen anything to give me any confidence that they can score with any consistency. You have Johnson, DeAndre Johnson, who's now on IR. It doesn't matter. They can't call. Their offensive line is still a mess. But I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. Don't believe in him. And most importantly, he's not really getting help around him. That offensive line, he's got wide receiver injuries. I love Pickens, but that's about it. Matt Canada is terrible. He's running an outdated offense. He doesn't use any of the modern tools that all the other best offenses in the league are using. This offense needs to be blown up, and I'm just not a believer in Pickett. The Steelers didn't sniff the red zone. They didn't sniff it last week against the Browns. It was this pathetic offensive performance. And then on the other side of the ball, on defense, I think this defense is a tad bit overrated. Against the run, without Cam Hayward, the numbers fall off a cliff. We saw that last week. Didn't matter if Chubb was in there or not. Browns are running wild, no matter who they handed the ball to, running all over, everywhere. Minkah Fitzpatrick, also banged up. He's out of the hospital. He might play, but if he's out, that's secondary, then it becomes really problematic. You got to hope that Josh Jacobs can run forward. Now, he's out of shape, and teams are stacking the box now and daring Jimmy G to beat them with his arm. But I think he can get rid of the ball quick here. The secondary can't really cover the Raiders receivers. And I don't care if the Raiders D is bad, and I don't care if the Raiders went to Buffalo and got blown out last week. I expected that. I don't like this Pittsburgh team. Terrible spot after a lucky emotional win going out to the West Coast in prime time. This is the type of game that Jimmy G can win. Don't like this at 3, but anything under 3, this is a pure fade of this Pittsburgh offense that is a complete mess right now. And then add in the injuries and the situation. I'm happy to lay under 3 with the Raiders.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Here's a fun stat for Pittsburgh. Only one team has fewer red zone trips than the Chicago Bears, who have 3. And it is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have 2. 1 a game. Not good. All right. That is going to do it for the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack. To recap, Stuck has the Indianapolis Colts plus 7.5 at Baltimore, the Cleveland Browns -3 at home against the Titans, and the Las Vegas Raiders -2.5 at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll have a write-up for that game at actionnetwork.com in the app, by the way, so be sure to check that out. And I have the Falcons plus 3.5 at Detroit, the Saints plus 2 at Green Bay, and the Houston Texans plus 9.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is our Week 3 Sunday 6-pack.